Tehseen Poonawalla.
Good evening, Jai Hind, Jai Bharat. Thank you for having me on the show. Completely unconstitutional. Um, Apart from being astounded that the ex-president of India, Ramnath Kovind ji, agreed to head a committee, which has never happened in India, that an ex-president is headed a committee. I am surprised that the basic structure of the constitution is being allowed to be destroyed in the way after Keshav Nanda Bharti judgment 1973. And there are people who even think this can be legitimate, as Sanjeev Bhai rightly said. And for one, I am that we must have one nation, one election. At the face of it, it seems very good. But none of you on this panel, with a lot of humility, can give me the data that says how costs will be reduced. Because that's a very vague statement to say 60,000 crores got spent, 40,000 crores. I have read this report. There is no data that says how it will be reduced. That's point number one that points to it. Point number two. And black money cannot be taken into consideration. That cannot be a force of data. Something illegal cannot be taken into consideration. Number two, look, Sanjeev Bhai made a very valid point. Apart from the constitutional, let me first come to the parliamentary changes. Article 83, 85, 172, 174, 356, and changes in the 1951 People's Representation Act will need to be done. But apart from that, the state legislators will also need to ratify it. This proposal does not ask the state to ratify it. So let's assume I am Maharashtra today, which is a BJP government. Why should I, and now let's not get into BJP Congress. I am Maharashtra, I've just won. Why should I give up my government because somebody in Delhi feels that, hey, let's have one nation, one election? It doesn't work like that. And my assembly will not even be allowed to vote about it. So I, as a Maharashtrian, sitting here that have voted a government, does not have a right to decide why did I vote this assembly? Somebody in Delhi decides it. Why should that be? Why should Delhi decide for me in Maharashtra or Tamil Nadu or Odisha or elsewhere?
Okay.
Point number three, I think this is now extremely important. The entire legislators will become toothless once the assembly continues for 5 years. So suppose you still the way this is drafted by Ramnath Kovind ji, the assembly will continue till there'll be the next round of one nation, one election. So should they lose a majority, how do the MLAs hold the executive accountable? No answer for that. Lastly, let's ask the BJP. Now, let me make this political. Put its money where its mouth is. You want one nation, one election? Let's do it tomorrow. Will the Honorable Prime Minister resign and have the union government along with it? They don't want to do it for the union government, but the union will decide what states will do. Why should that work? This is a partnership between union and states.
I think what we had put out here at News 18, CNN News 18 very clearly is that this is not aimed at 2029. This is after the next census, the delimitation exercise is completed. The build-up will be for the 2034 Lok Sabha elections. And at that time, the effort will be to slowly, and also when women's reservation kicks in, 33%, and of course the expansion of the parliament happens. And thereafter you get into a system, and at that point in time, any state or every state, irrespective of which political party has its government, they will be impacted. Aman and Pallavi are also with us. Just shown some light on this, Aman. Are there not provisions that if there is a government toppling in between, if there's for some unforeseen changes, doesn't Mr. Ramnath Kovind's recommendation consider that? And is this entire thing true that he is trying to say that if there are more than 360 people who say aye in parliament, then we don't need the states to approve this?
Well, Anand, first coming to, I think, the Congress objection specifically, till 1967, we all know that there was one nation, one election in this country under the reign of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. So the Congress today is saying that one nation, one election is unconstitutional or against the federal structure is pretty ironic. That said, we just have been announced Delhi elections yesterday. Delhi will be in model code of conduct for the next 1 month. Last year, Delhi was under model code of conduct for 2 months during the Lok Sabha election. So this is the perennial problem that a state goes under model code of conduct multiple times, and this leads to stoppage of all work. Delhi's people are an example of how intelligent the voter is to differentiate between a Lok Sabha election and an assembly election. Similarly, they are voting for BJP in Lok Sabha, they're voting for Mr. Kejriwal in assembly. If the election happens together, that may well happen. Even then, we've seen that in past in Odisha and Andhra Pradesh as well.
Right.
That said, the rules are very clear, and until this one nation, one election will not come till 2034. After 2029, Lok Sabha elections are held. Whichever state goes to polls, be it in 2030, for example, if UP polls in 2030, just for example, it will have a 4-year term. If Odisha polls in 2031, it will have a 3-year term. Whichever, it is irrespective of political affiliation, whichever state polls in whatever year, it will have the remainder of the term, and from 2034, everybody will start getting a 5-year term simultaneously with the Lok Sabha. If a government falls after 2034, example, Anand, if 2036 UP government falls, for example, there will be immediate election again. but that term will only extend for rest 3 years, not for the
Correct.
full 5 years, so that the schedule is not disturbed. So I think the main heart of one nation, one election is that cost is saved, time is saved, people don't have to queue up again and again for voting multiple times. You vote once in 5 years, and that is decided. Don't question
and-
the intelligence of the Indian voter. He can differentiate between a state election, who can be the same, who can be the PM.
And somewhere also act as a deterrent that you don't try and topple elected governments in between the terms. So because you know that it's going to be a shortened or a truncated term and you will have to go back to the ballot again. Pallavi? Are the states going to be bypassed?
I mean, let me give you. No, let me give you a quick example to add on to that. We also know that every year we all look forward to the union budget, which is going to happen on 1st of February. The Election Commission has made it very clear that, you cannot have Delhi specific, kind of announcements as far as the union budget is concerned. But the union budget could have specific as far as other states which are not going for polls. Why should Delhi lose out? That's the argument which often comes in from Finance Ministry, that our hands are tied. They are development projects. When we feel that a particular area needs more attention than the others, but very often we are not able to do it because there's an election happening. So if there's a uniform platform, that is a problem or an issue which can be taken care of. That's one point. Very quickly, as far as the states concerned, well, that's exactly the ground of opposition which is coming in from the opposition parties. See, if you look at the opposition about the ONOP is coming, it is actually coming in from the opposition ruled states, from those political parties which are not a part of the NDA, because they fear, one, it tinkers with the entire federal structure, because the centre is going to arbitrarily decide, to use their words, that whether they are going to be in power or not, when those elections are going to be held. And also the second thing that they're saying is that we know the way the BJP works. Again, I'm quoting them. They said the BJP is in cahoots with the Election Commission. How do we know it's going to be free and fair? How do we know they're not going to dictate that what is happening at the Lok Sabha level will also not be replicated at the state level? Facts contradict them. Odisha is one prime example.
Yeah.
People at state level always vote differently from the Lok Sabha level, and that is the point which the BJP and the central government and the defenders of ONOP are making.
True, and within Himachal also, Himachal voted differently, Maharashtra voted differently, albeit over different periods of time, and it was not simultaneous.